Hey, I'm the Kinky Polyatheist. Today on the show, we're asking the question, does the word kinky automatically equal sex? When we talk about kinky things, are we literally always talking about sex? Stick around for the answer. Welcome to the show. We dispel shame around sex, sexuality, relationships, and spirituality. Like, subscribe, share with your friends. If you have any questions for me, you can send them to ask@kinkypolyatheist.com, or you could drop them in the comments below. Does kinky automatically equal sex? I think this is such a good question, and it's something that comes up a lot. In fact, just about any time I mention anything kinky, I have people kind of cringe and withdraw because they're afraid that I'm talking about weird sex things and I might somehow be trying to come onto them or put them in an uncomfortable situation or anything like that. So it's very interesting that the word kinky immediately brings up sexual connotations. What's kind of amazing is how much our society kind of makes kinky things somehow equate to sex. And I've been trying to come up with other things that have this kind of misconception on what does it actually mean and why does it jump straight to it must mean sex. So the thing that I've noticed is something that has a very good parallel to this whole kinky equals sex thing is nudity. How often in our society does nudity somehow imply sex? Our society suppresses nudity so much that if nudity comes up at all, then instantly everyone's mind jumps to sex. Because that's the only time you see nudity is when there's sex involved. So what if, as a society, we're a little bit repressed when it comes to nudity, and because we only see nudity when there's sex involved, instantly we start making these conclusions that nudity equals sex, which is not true. I have plenty of friends that I go skinny dipping with, and we don't have sex. I have plenty of friends who walk around topless at parties, and we don't have sex. Nudity doesn't equal sex. You know what else doesn't equal sex? Female nipples, or a woman breastfeeding a baby. A human body is a human body, regardless of whether or not it's nude. But because our society is repressed when it comes to sex and sexuality and expressing sex, any kind of nudity instantly gets taken the wrong way, instantly gets seen as bad. It's not. The human body is beautiful. It's natural. It's nature. There's nothing wrong with the human body. There's nothing wrong with sex. It's not bad. In fact, it's awesome. The human body's amazing, resilient, and sex is also amazing. Not bad. Here's another one. How about just touch? Just human interaction and touch between humans. Holding hands, does that equal sex? Hugs, does that equal sex? Cuddling. If I were to have a female friend over my house and her and I were to spend the night in the same bed with our clothes on, just cuddling all night, is that sex? If that were to happen, would people jump to conclusions? What kind of BS would we have to deal with if it got out that me and this woman happened to cuddle all night and didn't have sex? But everyone assumed we did. Okay, I think I've made my point. With nudity and with cuddling, those things do not equal sex. But our society likes to jump to those conclusions and make assumptions that, oh, well, if you're nude around somebody, sex is somehow involved or expected, which is not true. The same thing with cuddling. Cuddling up with someone on a couch and watching a movie, or cuddling up with somebody and literally spending the night, somehow that's going to lead to sex, and it doesn't. It doesn't have to. You can have things that are called boundaries. You can be very clear about where someone's boundaries are and where your boundaries are, and what kind of agreements you're going to have between the two of you. What I'm getting at is that just because you're nude doesn't mean you only have to be nude with the person you have sex with. You could be nude around friends. You can go skinny dipping. You can also be cuddly with people that you're not having sex with. That's also possible. And being nude or being cuddly doesn't have to lead to sex. It doesn't have to progress a relationship in that direction. Although a lot of people in our society think it does, because that's the way they operate. For them, if they are nude around someone, it's because they're expecting sex. If they're cuddly with someone, it's because they're expecting sex or expecting it to go in that direction. And I'm telling you right now, it doesn't have to be that way. Let's get back to the word kinky. What does kinky even involve, and why does sex get wrapped up in it? And it's because, in my opinion, kinky refers to playful behavior, which also involves touching and interacting with other people. A lot of kinky things you can't do by yourself. Say, for example, playing with paddles. You can't really paddle yourself. It's not really that much fun. But having somebody else do it is a lot of fun. And you need to have a relationship with somebody, respect and trust, in order to have that kind of interaction where you trust them to hit you with an object and make it fun. So kinky, in my opinion, also has a lot of overlap with playful touch. And playful touch in a lot of our society is reserved for the person that you're intimate with. It's reserved for the person that you're having sex with or your significant other. Those are very monogamous culture things. But what if it wasn't that way? What if, regardless of whether or not you were monogamous or polyamorous, you could have friends that you could actually touch and interact with, and it didn't have to be sexual? What if you could play a game of touch football with friends, and it was co-ed, and it never went sexual? That's possible. What if you could get physical with your friends? What if you could be physically playful with your friends, and it doesn't involve sex? What if you could wrestle with your friends, or give your friends piggyback rides? Wouldn't that be a lot of fun? Wouldn't it be great to have fun friends that you actually interact with and touch, and it didn't have to involve anything involving sex? Unfortunately, our society is so sexually repressed that any kind of touch can be misinterpreted. Any kind of nudity can be misinterpreted. Any type of cuddling can have assumptions put on it. It's all of these assumptions that make people think kinky equals sex, and it doesn't. Kinky does not have to be sexual. Kinky is simply playful with friends. And you're doing it with friends you trust. And because you trust them, you're doing more interesting things, like paddling, like playing with clothespins, like one of my previous videos, like playing with pinwheels or a violet wand. You have to have a lot of trust with someone to let them tie you up. And no, it doesn't have to be sexual. Your body doesn't have a user's manual. If you want to figure out how it works, you have to try things. If you want to know what various sensations feel like, you have to actually explore them yourself. So for example, your palate. When it comes to wine and food and things like that, if you don't try things, you won't know what your palate is. Does that make sense? You won't know the difference between beef and pork unless you try beef and pork. You can't really describe that to somebody who's never tasted it. It's the reason why when people describe things you haven't tasted yet, they talk about something you have. It's the reason why people say, okay, well, frog legs. If you've never tried them, they taste a lot like chicken. But you'll never know until you actually try frog's legs for real. So even something as simple as apples, it's not until you have a red apple and a green apple that you realize they're different. It's not until you have a whole bunch of different types of red apples that you realize that, oh wait, all the red apples are different too. And then you find the one you like the most, and the reasons why. But every now and then you can go for something that's sweeter, or tartar, or more crunchy, or more juicy. And there's a reason why apples and pears don't taste the same, but you'll never be able to describe that unless you have an apple and a pear. It's the same way with your body. That's where kinky stuff comes in. Your body doesn't have a user's manual. And so why not explore all the sensations your body can have? And that's one of the reasons why pain is one of the things that people explore with kinky stuff. Yeah, it's easy to try things like feathers and stuff like that. Everybody gravitates towards the things that feel good, but why don't you try things that don't feel good? Why don't you find out what it feels like to have something rough against your skin, or something that stings? There's a lot to be learned about what your body feels and how it feels and what different sensations feel like. And kinky play is a very good way to do that. But even with the apples, think about this. Say your favorite type of apple is a green apple. You could still have it raw, baked. You could put it in a pie. You could dehydrate it. You could freeze dry it. There's so many different ways to have this one thing. And each way is gonna create a different context and a different taste, a different texture in your mouth. Kinky stuff's the same way. Every flogger is different. Every paddle is different. Every riding crop is different. There's a difference between clothespins and a pinwheel. There's different types of rope. There are so many different sensations, moods, emotions situations. There's so many different things to create and try. The only way to expand your palette is to try it. Once you realize that, you're gonna wanna try everything. You're gonna wanna try every paddle. You're gonna try every flogger. You're gonna try whips. You're gonna wanna try clothespins. You're gonna wanna try the rope. And you know what? You're gonna wanna try all the food too. You're gonna wanna try the frog's legs and the escargot and the clams and the oysters and the eel and the chicken feet and the seaweed and the tarantulas and the grasshoppers. You're gonna wanna try everything once you realize that everything tastes different. And it might be worth knowing the difference between sweet and sour instead of only seeking sweet. It's the same way with kinky stuff, and you have to do it with friends. And no, it doesn't always equal sex. And what's the best way to find friends? Find a kinky group in your area. Find people who get together and try things, whether it be paddles or candle wax or feathers or whatever. You need friends, friends you could trust, to try fun ways to see what your body's capable of. Because there's no user's manual. Does kinky equal sex? No. Is sex better when you add kinky elements? Oh yeah. Think about that. Get out there, try things, and bring them back to your sex life. Try things with a bunch of friends, learn what you like and what you don't like, and then bring your sex life to the next level with the person you already know and trust and love, the person you're already intimate with, and take it to new levels. Whether they be sweet or sour, gentle or rough, once you expand your palette, suddenly you'll identify things that would be awesome together. A great example of that, in that video I did previously with the clothespins with my friend Katrina, she immediately realized, you know what, this is neat, but I think it'd be better with rope. And while we got rope, what if we had the violet wand too? And before long, we've got her tied up with clothespins, the violet wand, and a pinwheel. And we had fun. It was just being silly, seeing what your body can do and what various things feel like. Her palette is very robust, more robust than mine. I mentioned that in that video. I said to her, wow, you can take a lot more of this pain sensation than I can. It's just because her palette is more developed than mine. So for her, the pinchiness of the clothespins, the helplessness of the rope, the shocking value of the violet wand, and the prickliness of the pinwheel all came together perfectly for her. That's what she wanted, and we created it. And it takes a friend to do that. So no, kinky does not equal sex, and you should try more kinky things to expand your palette. But again, even though kinky doesn't have to be sex, sex can be way better when it gets kinky. Here's a question for you. How evolved and how robust is your kinky palette? Drop your answer in the comments below. I'd love for people who don't have a robust palette to hear what that sounds like. What are the things that you like and why? And what are the things you don't like and why? And why would you try new things? What does your palette include? So up next, at the end of this video, I'm just gonna add a link to the video with the clothespins with Katrina so you can see what I was talking about. So look for that at the end of this video. I'm the Kinky Polyatheist. Like and subscribe, share with your friends. If you have any questions, send them to ask@kinkypolyatheist.com. I'll catch you guys next time, and also, kink responsibly. See you later.